Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. It is the weekend, or perhaps early in the week, depending on when you are seeing this, and we are waking up with watches. So for today, we have a midsummer 2023 launch from Omega, the Seamaster Planet Ocean Summer Blue. Now, this is the best of the Seamaster Planet Oceans, in my opinion, because it is a 39.5mm stainless steel case that makes it viable on smaller wrists. Traditionally, not something you would say about Planet Oceans. Now, don't worry, here we got some fingerprint smudges, but this watch is in excellent condition, being only about a year old. And of course, with the summer blue dial, we have ceramic with a vertical brushed grain, and then a gradient fade from light to dark with sort of a cerulean blue accent on the indices, numerals, hands, and lume. You can see a blue on blue timing bezel. We'll do a lume shot so you can see this watch in the dark. The bezel pearl and the minute hand are differentially colored so you can quickly read them relative to each other. We've got a clasp that pops open, and then inside you have about 9.6, 9.7 millimeters of incremental adjustability sized with a push button slider. Then we throw it on the wrist. The watch is just a bit over 44 millimeters from lug to lug, and it wears true. So you can see this is a good fit for my 16 centimeter circumference wrist. Extremely comfortable. Caliber 8800 inside, the same movement as in the Diver 300 meter, but this is a 600 meter watch with a helium escape valve. The bezel is a nice and mechanical feeling 120 click unit, but it doesn't have too much resistance, and there's less of a gritty feel than on previous Planet Ocean bezels. This one's nicely refined. Taking a look at the case back, you can see Poseidon, Neptune, seahorses, a trident. It's a fascinating look on a series that primarily includes display casebacks, but frankly, I prefer this. The movement itself is fairly industrial, so while technically proficient and accomplished, it's not necessarily a looker. This is actually pretty cool. The movement's an automatic, 55-hour power reserve, quick set, hacking, coaxial escapement, and a master chronometer, which is everything the COSC is, but also includes water resistance, anti-magnetism, shock resistance, winding efficiency, and power reserve. So, Seamaster Planet Ocean Summer Blue, 39.5 millimeters in steel. Okay, here's a watch from a company we rarely discuss, and this is a rare watch from that company. A 500-piece limited edition for 2010 from Fortis. This is the B-42 Flieger Black Chronograph alarm. Now, the original version of this movement was designed for Fortis by Paul Gerber in 1998, so a highly regarded independent watchmaker, primarily known in his early days for building mechanisms for his clients. Later, he would establish fame under his own name, but this watch is his work, as we have a alarm system built on top of a chronometer-certified Valjoux 7750 base. All of this 200 meters water resistant. There is an on-off toggle for the alarm. We have hacking seconds. We've got a quick set date. And in the other direction, you can adjust the alarm, but you got to activate it. White means alarm. You can see the striker on the back. Off, on, just like that. This watch has absolutely blazing lume, and you can actually see the alarm setting hand in the dark. 200 meters water resistant. It's a big watch, and you can see, well, 42 millimeters in diameter, it's over 17 millimeters thick and over 53 millimeters lug to lug, so you need a large wrist for it. My wrist is 16 centimeters in circumference, and you get a good sense of the size of this watch on the wrist. This is the Fortis B-42 Flieger Black Chronograph alarm, and it is a COSC certified 50-hour power reserve 7750 base with the Paul Gerber alarm system. It offers a lot of functionality. In its day, this watch cost thousands more than a Rolex Daytona. Don't know if I did a wrist shot with the Omega, but we'll do one now just to get a good sense. It's a nicely sized 39.5 millimeter steel watch. What I've got next, a spectacular trio from Francois-Paul Journe. Each one could be considered a vintage FP Journe watch. And we may as well start with the one that is most familiar to Journe collectors, which would be the Octa Calendrier. Now this one is triple pink. So the model itself was discontinued after the final steel editions were launched in 2015. So it was made as you see it here with rose gold movement from 2004 to 2015. We have a rose gold dial, solid gold matte finish, rose gold 40mm case, and a solid rose gold Octa 1302 movement, 22 karat rose lathe cut rotor, 3 Hz beat rate, free sprung. It's got 120-hour chronometric power reserve, though in fact it'll run for almost 7 days at 160 hours. You can see the French hallmarks and the Eleanor maker's mark on the case, as well as the Swiss hallmark, because these cases, the Eleanor cases pre-2008, were made in France by a case maker called Eleanor, which is a long associate of Francois Paul. You can see here we have a quick set system for the day and the date, and it is a retrograde date. The watch is an annual calendar, and so it only needs one correction each year during the jump from February to March. It's about 48 millimeters from lug to lug, though just 10.1 millimeters thick. It fits nicely on the wrist. Again, triple pink, rose gold dial, rose gold movement, rose gold case. And what you can't just see on camera is that this triple gold makes it a very heavy watch for a 40 millimeter, so it's deeply impressive when it's on the wrist. Jumping now to the rarely seen, and back in the day, rarely ordered Octa chronograph. Over 300 examples of this were made from 2001 through 2008 across several different variants, case sizes, case metals, dial colors, brass, and rose gold movements. So any given version, such as this white gold dial, 38mm platinum cased rose gold caliber, any given example is only likely to exist in a few dozen units that are identical to its spec. That 300 plus production is highly partitioned into different sizes, materials, and styles. Now on the dial, we have a white gold dial. We have 2 steel polished inner dial bezels, we'll call them, that frame the white gold portions. Then we have in silver the chronograph minutes register, which note goes up to 60, and the hours, minutes, and seconds. Central seconds, you can see the watch is a flyback, so reset and restart without first stopping. A lot of people don't know the Octa chronograph is a flyback. It features a unique squashed column wheel, as the chronograph movement adds only 1 millimeter worth of mechanism to the underside of the dial. The column wheel, which normally has vertical crenellated towers or columns, has been flattened almost like the squashed petal of a flower, all the petals arrayed laterally. So it's almost a hybrid of a column wheel and a cam, and very similar to the column wheel on a Patek Philippe 28520. The feeling is excellent. It's nice and crisp. And then we've got the double-digit date with a quick set. Turn it all over. Once again, we've got the 120-hour chronometric, 160-hour absolute power reserve Octa caliber in rose gold. You can see that this case features a year of construction stamp, 5 being the year the case was made. Now, this was discontinued after 2005. Journe's case maker would stop putting the case year of manufacture on the case next to the reference. So you know when you see a case code that includes the number and the reference, you're looking at something made from 1999 to 2005 in general. Again, Eleanor made case. This one features sharper hallmark definitions, and we have both the French and the Swiss, as these are still French-made cases. 38mm case, highly sought, quite rare. This combination of platinum, rose gold movement, and white gold dial made in only a few dozen pieces. Being just 38mm in diameter, it wears really nice across the wrist, though again, it's a chunky feeling watch because of its weight, but it's a nice fitting watch because of its size, and you can really see that from this angle. Now finally, the most collectible of the 3. Now this is the Octa Automatique Réserve de Marche, and it is probably a first-year example. The model with brass caliber was launched in 2001 and made through mid-2004 when Journe switched over to rose gold movements. Now this is an old-school 38mm case. We've got rose gold dial, rose gold case, 38mm size, and then not just a brass caliber, but linear Côte de Genève. Later on, whether on brass or rose gold, you would see these circular Côte de Genève. So how many Octa Automatique Réserve de Marche were made with this type of movement decoration? probably more than 100, but less than 150. These are very rare and very scarce. You can see the case code here, manufactured in 2001, and so a hugely different aesthetic. This is the Octa caliber 1300 first edition, which means you have a combination of brass bridges and plates, linear Côte de Genève, a bidirectional winding system too. After about mid-2007, the 1302 became the 1303 with unidirectional winding. This is the very first version of the movement. And again, we have a French-made case here with really well-defined hallmarks. This watch has been minimally, if ever, refinished. Another 38 millimeter, you can see it fits well on my wrist. It's got a very different aesthetic than some of the more complicated models. Has the same power reserve as the watches we saw earlier. It's only about 44 millimeters from lug tip to lug tip, so really compact across the wrist and thin at under 10 millimeters thick. Try to get a little bit more light here. You can see that this dial includes patination. Just about all of these early Journe watches do, as there was a sort of varnish or lacquer on the dial that was prone to creating a little bit of a change in shade over time. Usually where the dial borders the case, or where the dial borders the inner features of the dial. So you can see there's a little bit of discoloration there. And then you can see it's got a shininess to it because of that lacquer or varnish that would dissipate and disappear on later Journe watches. This is a huge opportunity for a collector who wants something he's unlikely to ever see again in person other than on his own wrist. Now I've got two dress watches in steel, no less, from Holy Trinity brands, launched in late 2017. This is the Vacheron Constantin Historique Triple Calendar 1942, and it's based on the reference 4240 from 1942. That watch, which had a similar profile, featured a LeCoultre-based caliber 495 triple calendar. This one features Vacheron's own 65-hour power reserve Geneva hallmark 4400 caliber. More on that in a moment. The case is 40 millimeters in diameter, and you can see steel gadroons or strakes in profile with cowhorn or claw-style lugs, a plexi-like domed and cambered sapphire crystal over a sunburst champagne-colored dial that includes a radial date indication, the day and the month. We have these lovely needle-like fired steel baton hands. And then we've got a sort of open 9, open 6 style font used for all the numerals. The movement is beautifully decorated, and you can see Geneva seal on both movement and on case, as it is a full watch standard these days, not just movement finish and quality. You can see off-centered solarization on the crown wheel core, beautifully shaded stripes across the bridges, solarization on the barrel cover, outstanding mirrored chamfers anglage that creates sharp interior angles where bevels meet. You can see two more of them around the pinion of the escape wheel. And it's a nicely sized movement that fills the case well. We'll throw this watch on my wrist, and it wears comfortably. As you can see, fairly flat, but also fairly broad. Lug to lug, it's about 49 millimeters. So I'm not going to recommend this for a wrist much smaller than mine, but I'd say if your wrist is 15 centimeters circumference or up, you could probably wear this just fine. Again, my wrist is 16. Patek Philippe back in 2019 surprised a lot of people with this. A lot about this watch is counterintuitive. First, it has a dial that is reportedly modeled on the handwriting of a Patek employee, and the reason that's notable is because apparently the prototypes of this watch were drawn up using a handwritten dial, and the idea was to eventually go to a bespoke font, and they just liked the look of the handwriting better, and they skipped the bespoke font. They just had the employee reproduce all the letters and all the numerals, and this dial was the result. So blackened white gold indices and hands, you can see they're faceted, so you can easily see them against the cream colored dial base, and it is cream colored. It is a triple calendar of an unusual variety, as we have the day, the date, and we have the month and the week of the year. So this is the 5212A Calatrava weekly calendar. There is a quick set for the date, which features a lovely handwritten font to match the dial. We have these handsome tapered and fluted individual lugs that come to lovely arcing points. And then a strap with a contrasting stitch in medium brown calfskin, a spade-style stainless steel Patek Philippe pin buckle, and this was the debut of caliber 26-330, the successor to the 324. It's got all of the features of finish and tech spec of the 324 with one major change. It is now a hacking seconds movement. Still has a 45-hour power reserve, still has 4 Hz beat rate, anti-magnetic Spiromax silicone hairspring, Gyromax free-sprung balance, and a judicious blend of hand and mechanical finishing. Same size movement, but now with hacking. You can see on the wrist, it's a watch with a lot of presence. It's only 10.8 millimeters thick, but it's broad from lug to lug, so it really announces itself, it declares itself. It gives up nothing to more complicated, larger, and precious metal watches, and in steel, it's going to be more durable against marks, scratches, swirls, and scuffs. A really cool piece that was acknowledged almost from inception as a modern classic. So for late 2023, for the 2024 model year, IWC launched what I believe to be one of the best versions of their Pilot's Watch chronograph. This is the IWC Pilot's Watch Chronograph 41 AMG Performance, or Performance AMG. So this is the Pilot's Watch Chronograph 41 that is made of ceratanium, a ceramic outer layer with a titanium core, so you can't crack or shatter the case, but you get ceramic-like scratch resistance. True to its name, the Chronograph 41 is 41 millimeters in diameter. It has a lush black lacquer dial with applied indices and numerals, and it is based on the long-running association between IWC and the Mercedes-Benz AMG Petrona's F1 Formula One team. So you have that Petrona's teal accenting the dial. The watch features a strap in rubber, and it features a pin buckle to match the ceratanium case. We have IWC's Easy Exchange quick release straps, and these are great because you have a quick release strap, but then it gives you a standard spring bar lug that can fit any, I believe this is a 20 millimeter spacing, but check my standalone review of this to be definitive. But you can put any standard strap in here. A lot of proprietary strap systems require you to buy proprietary straps, whereas this leaves the lugs and the spring bars untouched by fitting the mechanism to the strap, not the case. So you can get custom straps, aftermarket straps. You can accessorize this watch. You're not locked into an IWC part. The case back is shaded, and you can see a big step up from the past IWC Pilot's watches. Now, new models coming out with 100-meter water resistance. I've got caliber 69385. It's a Valfleurier design, but it's made by IWC. It uses a Paul-based winding system. It has a 46-hour power reserve. You can see that there is a column wheel for crisp actuation of the chronograph. Beats away at 4 Hertz. And the oscillating pinion lateral clutch ensures there's very little extraneous movement to the seconds hand when you start it. That's one of the advantages of an oscillating pinion. And this movement was developed as a drop-in replacement for the Valjoux 7750. So in addition to being the same diameter, they even carried over the oscillating pinion system. There's a double quick set for the day and the date, and there's a hacking seconds function. The watch is secured against explosive decompression in an aircraft cabin. So if all the pressure is lost in moments, the watch will not eject its sapphires or its seals. Take a look at the lume, actually quite a bit better than other IWC Pilot's watches, as both hours and indices are luminescent all the way around through 360 degrees. Now throw the watch on my wrist. It's over 51 millimeters lug to lug, so it's a big watch, but in titanium, sapphire, and ceramic, it doesn't wear that heavy. I'd recommend it for wrists my size or larger, so 16 centimeters circumference up or larger, you're going to wear this well. I think this is one of the most attractive IWC Pilot's watch models to come out in a really long time. And I think this is one of the best launches from Jaeger-LeCoultre in the last decade. So at first glance, this 2023 launch does not look all that exotic. A Reverso in steel, blue dial, 2 hands. So far, so good, but nothing to pop the eyes. Yet, you notice there are pushers on the flank. So the case, which rotates so precisely with a snick and a snap redolent of quality, rotating to reveal caliber 860, a free-sprung 52-hour manual wind manufacture movement that includes a column wheel lateral clutch chronograph. You can see the column wheel down in the corner, and a retrograde 30-minute date. This is based on the breakthrough and landmark caliber 829 of 1996, which was included on that year's Reverso Chronograph limited edition, one of the 6 complicated rose gold Reversos designed during the 90s. And the Chronograph later developed into the caliber 859 that went in the Reverso Grande Sport of the late 1990s. This is a descendant of that. The finishing I would describe as Audemars Piguet level, which is excellent, and certainly upper echelon JLC, short of their 6-figure grand complications. Now you can see there's a second set of hands on the back. That mirrors the dial, so it's not a dual time. It's set up so you can wear the watch with the case facing forward from either side and still tell the time. The column wheel feel is excellent. You can see the lateral clutch right there. The case has over 50 parts, and yet it still has the 30-meter water resistance of a standard dress watch. It's 29.9 millimeters across, just over 49 millimeters lug to lug, and about 11.2 millimeters thick as I measure it. The dial is blue via the deposition of titanium oxide that gives it a lovely blue metallic sheen. You can see those twinkling, faceted, rhodium-plated steel indices and hands. And then on the wrist, marvel at the fit. I don't have a big wrist, but I could fit this watch. It would be out to the edge of my wrist. I am probably the smallest wrist that could wear this, but I would be able to wear it. The strap in blue canvas, designed by Casa Fagliano, calfskin on the bottom. It's made by the OEM supplier of straps to JLC, which is Camille Fournet, but it is one of the Fagliano designed straps. Take a look at the case back. You can see there's a little bit of a canted downturn to the lugs for better fit. Pull tab spring bars, so you can remove the strap from the case without tools. And then here we have JLC's latest folding clasp, which features a push button release, so you can remove it from the strap without tools. So you have full strap swapping possible without the need for tools. I can't imagine, honestly, why you wouldn't just wear the watch like this. This is the Jaeger-LeCoultre that I love. And if you love this watch, or any you saw on the show today, reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.